Hello fourth graders and welcome to another video test review. Today we are going to talking about living things needing one another. More specifically in this lesson we're going to be talking about how plants and animals need one another because they both need one another in different ways. Animals need plants for protection and for food. Those are just a couple examples, but those are the two that we're going to be focusing on in this lesson. So in regard to protection, you can see that this animal here needs this tree or this plant as protection. Okay, he's protected from the sun. You can see here he's like it's nice and shady. He's not being beat down by the hot desert sun or wherever this animal is at needing protection. Also, birds build nests up in trees. And so it offers protection because not a lot of animals can get high up into these trees. And so they're able to hide and stay away from many of their predators. Okay, so birds building nests. In regard to food, you can see here both animals and human beings, we eat plants like lettuce, cabbage, and that sort of thing. When we go to the salad bar, we are using and eating the plant kingdom in order to survive. You can also see that this beetle, it eats the plant like the stem and the leaves and the roots. Also, we talked about a couple lessons back, fungi, when trees fall over, like in the tropical rainforest, the fungi come along and these microorganisms, they eat away at the dead tree. These are called decomposers, and they break down that soil into little pieces, and then that tree becomes part of the dirt. Also, the bacteria is a microorganism that eats plants, eats dead fruit, and that sort of thing. So we talked about also the different parts of a plant. The roots, the stem, the leaves, you are going to need to know that for the test. Animals now need plants also to aid in their breathing. You can see we as humans, we breathe in carbon dioxide and breathe out carbon dioxide. Well, animals give off carbon dioxide and breathe in carbon dioxide, so it's the opposite. So they breathe out what we need, and then when we breathe out, we are giving them what they need. Okay? It's the whole cellular respiration cycle. Okay? You can also see animals need plants for protection. We already kind of talked about that. That also happens in the ocean. You can see that this fish is using the seaweed deep into the ocean to hide from its predators. Okay, let's move on. I think we're done with how animals need plants. How do plants need animals now? There's a couple different ways plants need animals to help them reproduce. One of them is a process called seed dispersal. Now, seeds can get dispersed in a lot of different ways. We talked about it. One of them that it's not really mentioned in this lesson, is just by the wind. Okay, a plant is swaying in the breeze, it has its seeds, or a tree has its seeds. A big gust of wind comes by and it blows the seeds to some other good soil, and then new plants are going to grow. Another way, though, is by animals actually help seed dispersal. So what happens basically is the animal eats the plant. The plant already has the seeds inside of it. The animal runs away while it's digesting the plant. Remember, the seeds are in the stomach now of the animal because the seeds were a part of the plant. Once the animal has run away, okay, so it's spreading the seed because it's running away. After the animal has digested the plant in its stomach, it poops it out, and the seeds now are in the soil. So you can see here, the animal has actually moved the seeds to another location because it ran away, And once the animal poops the seeds into the soil, a new plant is going to grow. There's another way, it's called pollination, and you're going to learn this in 4th grade as well as in 5th grade. And basically what happens is you are going to need to know what a flower, this part of a flower, a diagram is. So you have different parts. You have the pistil, which is the long part in the middle. You have the stamen, which are, there's a whole bunch of those all over the flower. And at the end is the pollen grains. We looked at a picture in our book, and the stamen, there was a whole bunch of them sticking out like hairs. And at the end of the stamen were the pollen grains. The pistil was the single thing right down the middle. Okay? So what happens in pollination is there's this beautiful colored flower, and bees are attracted to that color. Bees, hummingbirds, that sort of thing. But in this lesson, we're going to be focusing on bees. The bee sees the colorful flower, and it's like, wow, I want to go over there. It probably has nectar. Nectar is a food that plants give them. So it comes over, it lands on the flower, and it's like, and it's sucking in all of that nectar. Now, without the bee knowing, the stamen, which is on the flower, and there's pollen grains on the end, some of the pollen grains get all over the bee's back, and you can see that here in this picture. So some of the pollen grains from the stamen land on the bee's back. Well, the bee, it's still hungry. It's like, wow, I'm going to go to that other flower and see if there's any more nectar. So the bee takes off. Remember, it's got the pollen grains on its back, and it lands on another flower. You can see this in step 2. The bee lands on the other flower, and some of the pollen grains, because the bee's moving around, it's getting the nectar, some of the pollen grains come off of the bee's back, and it goes down the big, long middle tube called the pistil in the flower. Okay? So the pollen grain goes down the pistil, and you can see this third frame here is a close-up shot. It goes into the ovary where the eggs are at. Then the pollen grains and the eggs, they kind of do their thing, okay? They hang out, and a seed is produced, okay? Now, the seed then is produced inside of the plant after the reproduction happens. The seed then is in the plant dies, so it goes and you can see here in the picture, it curls over, it goes down. The seeds then go into the soil. Once the seed is now back into the soil, a new plant then grows. So you can see all of this happened because of the bee and its attraction to the different colors, and because the plants provide it nectar. I think that is about it. We talked about pollination, we talked about seed dispersal, we talked about how animals need plants for protection because of hiding, because of the shade, because of the hiding with the bird in the nest. We talk about the respiration cycle, in that we breathe out what plants need, and then plants breathe out what we need, and we kind of go back and forth. And we talked about how animals and humans use plants for food. So that is pretty much it. This is a good video test review. If you watch this once, maybe twice if you want to, you're definitely going to do good on the test. Review your vocab. Look at the notes again, in the picture notes in your notebook. You should do solid, and that's pretty much it. I look forward to seeing you guys in class.